John Z. DeLorean, the Detroit prodigy who transformed Pontiac from a sleepy badge into the rebel brand of the 1960s, sparked America's muscle car craze with the GTO and became the youngest general manager in GM history once seen as a future president of the company.
Mr. DeLorean, they tell me that you're the best salesman in the world. If I came to you, how would you sell me one of your cars?
Very proud of our car, which essentially I think is a major engineering contribution to the state-of-the-art of automobiles.
For a moment, it looked as if he could rewrite the rules of the auto industry. He had the money, the fame, the political backing from a foreign government, and a stainless steel sports car with gull-wing doors that looked like it had landed from the future. But then came the crash. The car that promised to change everything was riddled with problems. The economy tanked, the politics turned against him, and the world watched in shock as DeLorean was arrested in a dramatic federal cocaine sting. Caught on camera opening a suitcase of white powder and muttering, "It's better than gold." How did the golden boy of Detroit, a man with movie star charisma, millions in backing, and a vision to build a safer, longer-lasting car, end up losing it all in scandal? This is the shocking rise and spectacular fall of John Z. DeLorean, the superstar engineer who flew too high, too fast, and paid the price. John Zachary DeLorean was born in 1925 in Detroit, Michigan, the industrial heartbeat of America's car industry. His father, Zachary, had immigrated from Romania hoping for the classic American dream, but ended up stuck on the noisy assembly lines at Ford, worn down by long shifts, poor wages, and little chance for advancement. Alcohol and bitterness followed him home, creating a tense, sometimes violent household. John's mother, Catherine, worked long hours to keep the family afloat, leaving young John to grow up with an early sense of self-reliance. Those years left a mark. He saw firsthand how the machinery of the auto industry could consume a worker's spirit, and he quietly vowed never to let the system trap him the same way. At Cass Technical High School, one of Detroit's best public schools, DeLorean thrived in both engineering and music. He played the trumpet so well that a career in jazz wasn't out of the question. World War II interrupted his studies when he was drafted into the Army in 1943, serving in logistics units in the Pacific before returning home in 1946. He finished his degree in industrial and automotive engineering, but then surprised everyone by taking a job selling life insurance policies. That year in sales proved transformative. He built a data-driven client list, outsold veteran agents, and realized that technical brilliance alone wasn't enough to change minds. You also had to master persuasion. Soon after, DeLorean returned to his true passion, cars. He joined Chrysler's graduate training program, earning a master's degree in automotive engineering in 1952, and moved on to Packard, a once prestigious luxury brand that was struggling to stay afloat. There, he redesigned a flawed automatic transmission, boosting both reliability and sales of fix that got him noticed by the industry's top brass. By the late 1950s, he was recruited by General Motors. Instead of choosing a glamorous division, he asked to be sent to Pontiac, then regarded as GM's dullest brand. His reasoning was bold. If he could turn Pontiac around, the achievement would be impossible to overlook. That choice set the stage for everything that followed. Pontiac became his personal laboratory for bold ideas, and Detroit's most unconventional engineer was about to reinvent the American performance car. At Pontiac in the early 1960s, DeLorean inherited a brand known for being safe, stodgy, and easy to overlook. That reputation changed almost overnight when he and a small group of engineers discovered a clever way to sidestep General Motors' own rules. In 1963, GM had banned its divisions from direct involvement in racing and limited the size of engines in midsize cars to discourage high-performance street models. But DeLorean noticed a loophole. The restriction applied only to standard equipment, not optional packages. By slipping a powerful 389 cubic inch V8 into the midsize Pontiac Tempest as an option, he created the Pontiac GTO, a street-legal muscle car that combined speed, style, and an affordable price tag. The GTO's debut in 1964 was a cultural jolt, priced within reach of the baby boomer crowd, but fast enough to compete with pricey sports cars. It sold over 30,000 units in its first year, 5 times more than Pontiac had predicted. Its ads leaned into rock and roll swagger instead of polite family slogans, and almost overnight, a new muscle car era was born. DeLorean had turned Pontiac from a conservative badge into the hottest name in Detroit. The success snowballed. In 1967, Pontiac rolled out the Firebird, a stylish rival to Ford's Mustang, and sold over 100,000 cars in its first year. DeLorean also transformed the aging Grand Prix, turning it from a sluggish full-size car into a sleek personal luxury coupe with a long hood, low roofline, and upscale interior at a mid-market price. He even negotiated for Pontiac to have a 1-year exclusive on the new platform before Chevrolet could use it, a bold move that paid off when Grand Prix sales more than doubled to 112,000 units in 1969, by 40. DeLorean was the youngest general manager in GM's history, a rising star in Detroit's most buttoned-down automaker. Unlike the gray suit executives around him, he favored Italian suits, open collars, and a social circle that included celebrities and nightlife. For a while, that charisma was an asset, perfectly mirroring Pontiac's youthful image. But when he was promoted to run Chevrolet, he faced a different test. Could the rebel engineer also succeed as a disciplined corporate manager? At Chevrolet, he streamlined the product lineup, slashed redundant parts to cut costs, and briefly restored the brand's profitability. Yet his push to launch the compact Vega designed to compete with the growing wave of fuel-efficient Japanese imports revealed a flaw in his approach. His talent for selling a vision sometimes outpaced his attention to engineering reliability. The Vega launched strongly, but soon developed a reputation for rust and engine troubles, damaging Chevrolet's image. Even so, by the early 1970s, DeLorean had cemented his reputation as both a turnaround artist and an industry maverick. He had gone from the son of a Ford assembly line worker to the man credited with reviving two GM divisions and redefining how American cars were marketed. The stage was now set for his boldest gamble, yet leaving the corporate throne room to launch a car company that bore his own name. In April 1973, John DeLorean stunned Detroit by resigning from General Motors at the peak of his power. He framed the decision as a stand on principle. He believed that big car companies were chasing quick profits at the expense of safety, quality, and social responsibility, whatever the mix of motives. His move was bold, walking away from a near-certain path to the GM presidency to pursue a vision of his own, a safer, more durable, fuel-efficient sports car that ordinary drivers could afford. 2 years later, he launched the DeLorean Motor Company DMC, pitching it as a startup with a conscience, to design his dream car. He turned to celebrated Italian stylist Giorgetto Giugiaro, who sketched a sleek, wedge-shaped coupe with brushed stainless steel body panels and dramatic gull-wing doors. The unpainted exterior promised resistance to rust and gave the car a futuristic, almost sci-fi presence, a look that would become iconic even before a single unit hit the road. Building the car, however, proved far harder than designing it. The original engineering called for a cutting-edge lightweight composite chassis, but the technology was too difficult to mass produce. DeLorean brought in Lotus founder Colin Chapman, whose team redesigned the car with a more conventional steel backbone frame and a 2.85-liter V6 engine sourced from a Peugeot-Renault-Volvo partnership. The change kept the project alive but delayed production and drove up costs. Securing a place to build the car turned into a global search. U.S. investors were wary of the steep startup expenses, and European backers hesitated as well. The breakthrough came from the United Kingdom, whose government, eager to fight unemployment and ease sectarian tensions in Northern Ireland, offered over $100 million in loans and grants to build a factory near Belfast. The deal gave DMC generous financing and a ready labor force, but it also tethered the company's future to political currents far outside the auto industry. Construction began in 1978, and the plant carried a unique symbolic weight. It employed Catholics and Protestants side by side at the height of the Troubles, briefly becoming a rare example of cooperation in a divided region. But most of the workforce was new to car assembly, and that inexperience would later show up in inconsistent build quality. By 1981, the first DMC-12 rolled off the Belfast line, a stainless steel dream born of international deals, technical compromises, and no small amount of charisma. The launch marked the high watermark of DeLorean's global reach. He had persuaded a foreign government to bankroll his vision, recruited top designers from Italy and Britain, and promised a sports car unlike anything else on the road. Yet the very choices that fueled that triumph, an untested factory, rising costs, and dependence on political goodwill would soon become dangerous liabilities as the economy shifted. The DMC-12 looked like something beamed in from the future, but too often it behaved like a rough prototype. Its stainless steel skin turned heads everywhere. Yet the mostly inexperienced Belfast workforce struggled with panel alignment and finishing. Early buyers found themselves dealing with the electrical quirks, rattling interiors, and doors that didn't always close cleanly. Under the sleek gull-wing shell, the 2.85-liter V6, perfectly fine for a family sedan, felt sluggish in a car that looked built to outrun a jet. 0 to 60 miles per hour took about 9.5 seconds. To make matters worse, the sticker price had crept up to around $25,000, nearly 60% more than a base Corvette, which was both faster and far more familiar to American buyers. Just as DMC needed strong sales to keep pace with its burn rate. A recession slammed both the US and the UK in the early 1980s. Interest rates soared, unemployment climbed, and the market for pricey sports cars evaporated to break even. The company needed to sell at least 10 to 12,000 units a year. In 1981, it moved barely half that, leaving unsold cars baking in storage lots while cash reserves drained away. Politics added another layer of pressure. In Britain, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's government, once eager to fund the Belfast plant as a symbol of cross-community cooperation, tightened the purse strings and grew impatient with production delays and cost overruns. Questions over the use of public money chipped away at goodwill. Then came damaging financial revelations. Investigators uncovered millions of dollars routed through offshore accounts. Supporters claimed it was last-ditch juggling to keep the startup alive. Critics called it mismanagement, even deception. Either way, confidence in DMC's leadership crumbled. The real shock hit in October 1982. Federal agents arrested John DeLorean in a Los Angeles hotel in a high-profile drug trafficking sting. Grainy footage of him peering into a suitcase stuffed with cocaine and muttering the now-famous line, "It's better than gold," ran on a loop across nightly news broadcasts. shaping public opinion long before the case reached trial. In court, DeLorean's lawyers argued entrapment that he had been steered into the scheme by a government informant at a moment of financial desperation, convinced the drug money could save his failing company. In August 1984, a jury agreed and acquitted him of all charges. But while the verdict cleared him legally, it didn't undo the damage to his reputation. Public opinion rarely reverses as quickly as a judge's gavel. By then, it was too late. The Belfast plant had closed. Thousands of workers were out of jobs. Dealers were stuck with unsold cars, and lawsuits stacked up for DeLorean. The acquittal felt hollow. His company was gone, his fortune depleted, and the once brilliant engineer who had reshaped Detroit was now a cautionary tale of charisma colliding with execution. When the Belfast plant shut down in late 1982, and John DeLorean faced years of lawsuits and debt, most assumed the stainless steel sports car would vanish into automotive trivia. Then, in 1985, Hollywood gave it a second life. Director Robert Zemeckis and screenwriter Bob Gale chose the DMC-12 as the time machine in Back to the Future, reasoning that if you're going to build a time machine, why not do it with some style? The car's gull-wing doors and brushed metal body were so distinctive that they became cinematic shorthand for the future, almost overnight. The DMC-12 turned from a commercial flop into a pop culture icon. While the car found immortality on screen, its creator lived a quieter, more difficult reality. Through the late 1980s and 1990s, John DeLorean battled creditors, endured roughly 40 civil suits, declared bankruptcy in 1999, and sold off property including land later acquired by Donald Trump to stay solvent. He occasionally pitched new automotive ventures, but none gained traction. DeLorean died in 2005 at age 80, reportedly with less than $500,000 to his name. The brand he founded, however, refused to die. A Texas-based entrepreneur, Stephen Wynn, began servicing and restoring surviving cars in the late 1990s, eventually acquiring the rights to the DMC name and parts inventory. By the 2010s and 2020s, the company experimented with limited-run rebuilds and even unveiled an electric concept, the Alpha 5 EV, in partnership with Ital Design, the same studio that had penned the original wedge shape. Today, more than 4 decades after its commercial failure, the DeLorean name endures as a cult badge. At car shows, the DMC-12 still draws crowds in pop culture. It's synonymous with time travel and 1980s nostalgia. John DeLorean's dream of a car that would last has come true in an unexpected way, not on the road, but in the collective imagination. His legacy is a paradox proof that engineering, marketing, politics, and luck all share the driver's seat in any big industrial gamble, and that sometimes cultural memory keeps a brand alive long after the balance sheets have been wiped clean. John DeLorean's story can be summed up in a single line: he built a car that promised tomorrow, but ran out of today. He was part engineer, part salesman, part showman, a man who could read a demographic curve as easily as a blueprint, who believed that style could inspire just as much as horsepower. For a brief moment, he bent Detroit to his will, then tried to rewrite the rules on his own terms. Yet the same charisma that opened doors often outran the slow. Grinding work of execution, building factories, perfecting supply chains, surviving recessions, navigating politics. In the end, the pieces never locked together, and the stainless steel dream collapsed under its own weight. Still, the silhouette he created, wedge-shaped, brushed metal, gull-winged, endures as one of the most recognizable automotive designs in the world. It's a reminder that sometimes a single bold idea can outlive the business that birthed it. So, what do you think? Was John DeLorean a visionary cut down by timing and circumstance? Or a showman chasing a mirage he couldn't deliver? Would you have taken the same gamble leaving a corporate throne to build something entirely new, or played it safe inside the system? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.